Hey there guys, this is Slamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and I've got a little review here for you, a video game review, as you could probably tell by the title and the fact that I primarily do video game reviews. It's a little late. I've had this game finished for a while. In fact, I've had the next two games that I'm going to review. One of them's already been recorded. I need to record this one and the other one. But basically, I'm going to review Dynasty Warriors 9. Finally got around to reviewing this bad boy. Like I said, I've had it finished for a while, and I know there's some DLC that's come out. I want to go ahead and say, and I'll mention this again later on because I do have notes, that I don't have any of the latest DLC, none of the character DLC. I don't even have all the characters yet. I'm missing one character, but we'll get to that as we continue onward. But yeah, I'm playing this pre-DLC as far as the gameplay footage is concerned, and my experience is pre-DLC, besides like patches and whatnot. Like I saw that there was a news article that there's going to be online play and split screen co-op. I don't even know how they're going to pull that off with how this game works, but yeah. Also, since I did mention that I'm recording this well after I have completed this game, if you want a review that's a little more current, meaning that I recorded it shortly after I beat the game, not too, like maybe a week after I had beaten the game, definitely listen to my podcast, which there will be a link in the description if you are in fact interested in that. I actually had it like separated because since it had been so long, I kind of forgot. I was one like, what did I think about this game again? So I was actually thinking about listening to it again, but with my notes, I did it all by memory, so I actually remembered a fair amount. So if I miss anything, it's probably going to be in the podcast, which I did off the cuff, but enough non-review thingies. Let's just get right into it. To start off with, I played the PS4 version, and I don't have a PS4 Pro or anything. I was just playing on a regular old PS4. There were a few graphical issues I noticed. I don't know how it is on. I feel like this game was kind of meant to be played on like the higher end systems, like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One S and high end PCs. But I noticed there was some slow loading textures in certain areas, and there was some frame dropping issues that happened a few times. There are actually two different modes that you could do in this game. There's like a action mode and a movie mode, which the movie mode is like, that's what they call it. Like the movie mode is like, you know, less stable frame rate but nicer looking graphics, whereas, you know, the action mode was like less nice looking graphics but more stable frame rate, and that's ultimately the one I chose. But even there, I felt like there was some slowdown, and I think that's probably due to just how this game is. I don't think it's really I don't think there's really too much they could have done without, like, just maybe, I don't know, optimizing it more, I guess. I don't know if there's too much that they can do, but overall the differences were pretty minor. And I also noticed the camera, I'm kind of nitpicking with this one, but whenever I would like move the camera left or right, it had like this weird shakiness to it, which I thought was pretty weird. I don't know if there's really anything I can do about it, and I actually haven't even played the game since today, or tonight rather, where I'm recording the gameplay footage, so I didn't even, as far as I know, they could have fixed it, but I doubt it. But this game is very much, I feel like, meant to be played on like high-end PCs or PS4 Pro. I think there's even a setting on like the PS4 where you can, like, even on the regular ones, where you can like do enable PS4 Pro upgrades and stuff. And I'm using like, I'm not using the new model PS4 or the PS4 Slim or whatever. I'm using like the standard PS4. I don't know if that makes a difference. Probably not. But another thing I noticed is that when I started the game, the screen was kind of letterboxed and like cropped. And it wasn't really like cropped. Like nothing, the actual like picture of what I could see was cropped or anything. Like I wasn't like, this wasn't like the orange bricks of Dragon Ball or whatever. But like it was letterboxed, and it kind of looked like it was trying to render the game in like a higher quality, but to kind of like match my machine. It was like shrinking the or not shrinking rather, because it didn't look smushed, but like, you know what I mean, how like if you play like an old PC game, the cutscenes, or even an old video game on your TV, like certain cutscenes and whatnot will like look kind of like weirdly letterboxed, as if you're watching it through like a camera lens or something. To to kind of like preserve the quality, and also in some instances where like, you know, something was filmed in widescreen but it was before like HD, so like it's gonna look kind of weird anyway, if that makes any sense at all, which it probably doesn't. Like it was in my notes here, it says like because again I do have notes, the way I wrote it was like rendering, it was like the game was trying to render the game in high quality but dumbing down the aspect ratio to fit the needs of my platform, if that makes more sense, which I hope it does. Though thankfully in the PS4 settings I did do the there was like the screen zoom thingy where you can like change like, you know, how things are zoomed in, and thankfully it doesn't affect all games. Like I think I've got 2 games that are really affected by this, one being Final Fantasy Type 0, which I'd like to finish at some point, or start, so I'm not even that far, and also this game. I think also Gintama Rumble, because I actually do have a that Asian English release of it. So yeah, that was kind of annoying. I think that's kind of going along with the whole PS4 Pro thing. I don't know how the PC version is. I wouldn't be surprised if the PS4 version, of course I imagine, or PC version, right? Of course if I try to run the PC version, my computer will just, you know, have a heart attack. So again, I feel like this game was trying to be really high end. I don't know how important that is for this kind of game, but that's how it seemed to me. Now the big change to this game in regards to the Dynasty Warriors formula, one of 2 things, is that this is supposed to be like a big open world thing. Like previously it was all like sectioned off, like you could say instanced. In Dynasty Warriors 7 they were trying to kind of be all seamless, and kind of that was sort of the early parts of open world. And Dragon Quest Heroes 2, which I'm going to come back to that game again, because I feel like, well, we'll go into that when the time comes, because I still need to play that game too. But Dragon Quest Heroes 2 kind of did a similar thing with like the world map. Spirit of Sonata, that game that I reviewed a while ago, which is at the moment is probably my favorite Warriors game, kind of did that. It was kind of sectioned off, so it was more like they were trying to use the Dynasty Warriors structure and make an open world thing with it. This is straight up open world. There are no like transitions to like going into castles or, you know, towns or whatever. It's all seamless. Heck, you can kind of Breath of the Wild it and you can do like a grappling hook thing to like go over the walls, and that's actually been kind of fun a little bit, how you can kind of you know, sort of tackle each area how you want. It's overall a decent effort. It's more fun and seamless, or full and seamless rather, like in Spirit of Sonata, as I mentioned. It's kind of like Dragon Quest Heroes 2 a little bit, except again seamless. It feels a lot more lively, I think, because of it, and I think the structure kind of benefited the game's pace overall. The story mode, speaking of which, is kind of like it's separated by, it's like the old, I think like up through Dynasty Warriors 6, where it's separate by the character as opposed to by the faction. Like in 7 it was Wei, Shu, Wu, and then Jean came in, whereas in the older ones, from what I remember of 6, I've never played like any ones besides like 5 Empires, so but from what I remember of 6, it was based on the character. And in this one, it's also based on the character, though, and that was a little daunting to me at first. Where it kind of does better, I think, is that it's based on a timeline. Like, you've got, like, your different time periods, and they've got the list of the characters you can play as next to it. So characters will show up multiple times, like, Cao Cao, he'll, like, show up through, like, well, like, most of the timeline. And so I figure, like, okay, well, I'll just play the completion of the timeline then. Because obviously the first character you can play as is Cao Cao, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember if there's anyone else you can play as. I didn't really check, but I just picked Cao Cao because, you know, I'm used to him. And then after that, I did Sima Yi's story, because I knew that by doing him, I'd be able to get Sima Zhao. And I remember from, you know, 7 and 8 that Sima Zhao was the one to kind of, as far as this game's concerned, kind of end the big war. So I'm thinking, like, okay, well, if I want to play through, like, the entire story of this game, more or less, without doing too many like side stuff, I probably should pick Suma Zhao over like obviously not Suma Sure, because I'm pretty sure Suma. Well, I'm not pretty sure. I am sure that he dies. He has such a like this series is kind of. I feel like this series is low key known for like, or at least to me, known for like kind of wimpy deaths. Suma Sure dies in like the. He gets like friggin' nicked in the face with an arrow. It's all like, oh, I need to have an eye brace thing, and I'm so weak. Oh, I'm dead. You have to do things now, Suma Zhao. It's like, oh, okay, what a bother. But so those are the 3 characters I played as. Obviously, I got Suma Yi from doing Cao Cao. I don't know if there's another way you could unlock him, but that's how I got him. And then playing as Suma Yi got me Suma Zhao, which makes sense because, you know, Suma Zhao was Suma Yi's son, along with Suma Sure and all that. So, playing these 3 characters, which I'll try to remember to show this if I can, but it seemed to unlock most of the characters for me. In fact, I think in terms of non-DLC characters, I'm only missing 1 character. I think it's one of the new characters, if I'm not mistaken. Wen Yang, I believe his name is. And like I said before, I don't have the DLC, so I don't have Deng Zhuo's daughter, or Yuan Shao, I think it is, who was, like, it's characters who appeared in the game as, like, special characters that weren't, like, just, like, NPCs or whatever, but they weren't playable. And they, in this DLC, they get, like, their story mode and whatnot. I think there's also weapons DLC, because that's one thing I noticed, that I don't remember if I mentioned this in the podcast or not. I know I talked about it during news coverage of the podcast, but I noticed that, like, a lot of characters were using weapons that they shouldn't be using, or that they weren't using before, and it was kind of weird. Like, I think Lu Bu's daughter, they gave her Shinkai's, or Xingzai's, you can tell I've been playing Shenmue, because I remember when she was introduced, they gave her Lu Bu's weapon from Dynasty Warrior 6, which was like that weird, like, cross shuriken, like, giant thing. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, making use of, like, that old style. But in this game, they gave her Xingzai's sword and shield, which, that's kind of random. Very random, in fact. There was another kind of odd choice. I don't remember exactly what. I think, and I know Zhang He, sort of like the flamboyant guy who used to be voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, but, you know, we'll get to that later. He doesn't use his, I think he uses, like, I think it's either daggers or they actually gave him a fan instead of, like, a little claws thing. Now, they did do DLC for that, so they're giving him back, but, like, basically a lot of characters, or there are a fair amount of characters who don't have their standard weapons that they've always had, which I think is kind of weird. I don't really know what they were going for. Cao Cao and, like, Xiahou Dun and several other characters, they've got, like, their standard weapons. Though, like 7 and 8, you can give any character any weapon, which was useful for me because I didn't want to use Suma Yi's stupid fan brush thing. So I just basically gave him Cao Cao's sword, and it didn't really affect, like, it's not like in 7 or 8 where, like, you use a different weapon and, like, you can't do, like, any cool your, like, character exclusive combos or anything. Like, they basically let you do whatever you want. You can even do your Muso attack, obviously, but, like, not without too much trouble. And it'll show up your character's primary weapon, so if you forget and you're like, oh, I want to use the real weapon, then you can do that. Suma Zhao, I ended up buying, like, what I think is one of his strongest weapons in the game, and I bought that. And if I play more story modes, I'm probably just gonna give whatever character, unless it's like someone I actually like their weapon, I'll just give them Suma Zhao's sword, because that'll just that'll just, like, break the game over. Like, I carried over, like, equipment, which is kind of cool. Like, you can carry over equipment. I think your character's levels carry over too. They make you apply stats, so anytime you start a new character, you have to, like, spend, like, you know, a few minutes, you know, putting in, like, several hundred, like, stat points to your characters, which I would usually just I would usually do it like by point too, because I wanted everyone to be kind of balanced, so like it would take a while. But you know, it didn't really bother me too much. Otherwise, at the moment, I don't think there's any other DLC coming out besides. They said they're doing more. I know they're kind of probably focused on other games at this point, and they're probably trying to figure out, well, what do we want to do for Dynasty Warriors 10? Because, well, you know, you've probably seen reviews. I'll go ahead and say I don't hate this game. I do kind of have some issues with it, but more in the combat, which we're gonna get to pretty soon. But yeah, so like using the different weapons was pretty useful because I gave Sumi Cao Cao's weapon, and then I got, you know, the cool weapon for Sima Zhao, and so going through the game wasn't really that hard. The story itself, I actually kind of enjoyed. I'd kind of been on a bit of a Samurai Warriors hump or whatever. Well, I don't know what the proper term is, like kick, I guess. Samurai Warriors kick is like Spirit of Sonata. The anime had came out like a while ago, and of course the dub of it as well, and just other stuff. So I'd been kind of focusing on Samurai Warriors a lot, and I kind of was getting into that story. So like I'm thinking, like, am I becoming a Samurai Warriors guy over Dynasty Warriors? I don't know for sure. I think I probably like Samurai Warriors' current battle system. I definitely like it more than fucking 9. Again, we'll get to that as we continue. But the story, I actually kind of liked it. It's another war drama. But like just how all the characters were acting with each other and like what they would say to each other, was it was pretty interesting. Like there was this one scene this one section rather that stands out to me where like I think it was during Sumi Yi's story, and I think it was either I don't think it was Sauron. I think it was someone working for Sauron. Because whoever the latest member of the Cao family, being the ruler of Wei, was at the time, and I think it was like their other strategist or something, and like he was telling Sumi Yi his like strategy, and Sumi Yi was basically all like, "That is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. You're stupid." He didn't say you're stupid like that, but you know he did say that was the most idiotic, or like that's one of the most idiotic things or whatever. Like, and he basically like kind of dressed down the guy's strategy a little bit. I mean, he was kind of nice about it, sort of. You know, he gave his opinion. He was blunt, as you would probably expect him to be. But the strategist guy got really friggin' butthurt and like tried to like kind of do his own thing and like almost like cost the army like a major win or whatnot. So like part of this like the big mission was like, you know, get this guy under control. I don't remember if he was even executed or not, but it was kind of just stuff like that. Like it was almost kind of like with Masayuki Sanada and Spirit of Sonata, how like he kept like switching sides and doing whatever he wanted. Like just to me, that's what makes these war stories, especially like these like ancient history ones, kind of interesting. Is how like these people act with each other, and sort of like, you know, sort of what do you call it? Like the sort of like the negativity of man, I guess. I don't really know how to describe, but like, you know, when people show their true colors and whatnot, and just how petty some of these characters can be and whatnot. I feel like, you know, I really enjoy this story. I really particularly enjoyed like the Suma family stuff, like Suma Yi and Sima Zhao, because like with Sima Zhao, you know, he's trying to be all peaceful and whatnot, and he kind of doesn't really want to be ruler, but of course he's thrust into being a ruler, and you know, you would think that being a ruler would actually appeal to him, because he'd be like, okay, well, this entire time you've been like, no, we don't want to do it this way, we want to do it that way. Well, since I'm the ruler, I'm just going to fucking say, hey, we're doing it this way. Of course, he's using his experience as a warrior and soldier and strategist to kind of go through the rest of things, because he wants peace. Whereas, I mean, they all wanted peace, but I feel like they all kind of wanted different things, and that's kind of what makes these characters interesting. Because, you know, all these different characters, several of them are rulers, and I think it's just kind of interesting to sort of see all these different characters. I almost do kind of wish that it was a faction-based game. It would have taken longer for me to play it, but, because, I mean, I basically just did, like, the 3 character stories, which aren't really that long. The longest one, I think, was probably Cao Cao's. Suma Yi's started a little, a little bit during Cao Cao's, and it continued after Cao Cao died, because obviously Cao Cao's story ends when he dies. And Sima Yi's story actually ended before he died, which I thought was kind of interesting. But, you know, I enjoyed the story. Like, I would say it was probably a little on par with Spirit of Sanada. I think just with Spirit of Sanada, like, the morals are a little, like, this is just straight up like petty war drama. I don't want to say petty too much, because I don't want to give off the impression that every character in this story is petty, because that's not true. A lot of these characters, like, you know, Liu Bei, you know, if you've played Dynasty Warriors, you know, he's all about, oh, benevolence. But you know, some of these characters are pretty petty, and some of them make bad decisions, some of them make good decisions. It's an interesting story, I think. So you can't really go wrong with really any. I think they all kind of tell the stories in different ways, and I think some games, obviously, because like some characters are missing. Like if you were to go back and play like Dynasty Warriors 6 and be all like, oh well, I'm gonna play that and let that be my first one, you're gonna miss like basically the entire Gene faction, because they didn't exist at that time. But in regards to the story missions were kind of structured like one big mission that like you could do, but like there were smaller missions that you could do to like sort of make things easier. Like they had levels, like let's say like the Battle of Red Cliffs. Let's say that's a level 30. I don't remember if that's the actual number. Let's say it's a level 30 mission. You could do that one, but you could also do some missions that would lower its level to like, let's say 15, just off an example. And that was kind of interesting. Some of the missions would lower the level of some of the side missions. So even if those were kind of tough for you, you could do that as well, and that was kind of cool. I liked it because I felt like it made the pace of the game go a little quicker, because I feel like sometimes part of where Dynasty Warriors kind of messes up a little bit and how it gets repetitive is like doing like all these little missions, and you have to do like a bunch of different missions, where here you can kind of pick and choose a little bit. They encourage you not to, in that they're like, oh, if there's like a 10 level difference between you and the main mission, the final boss of this mission won't stagger, and they're going to be real beefy, which that got kind of tough. Overall, the game wasn't really that hard. The fucking Bao Shani Nagin, or whatever her name is, and the black-haired chick in red from Wu with long hair, not Lian Shi, but like the sort of like the smaller girl who's sort of that they kind of sometimes, I don't remember her name, but she wears like a red dress, and she has like long straight black hair. Those two friggin' gave me a run for my fucking money. Like they were the toughest enemies. Like even Lu Bu, who's supposed to be like the Broly or the Barbados or the Sephiroth of Dynasty Warriors. You know, obviously they beefed him up because, you know, like, oh, you will not pursue Lu Bu, you know, that whole thing. But I tanked him hard and I beat him. And of course, obviously you have to kill him. Which, speaking of which, that's because the whole execution of Lu Bu, how that works. And here, like, 'cause I noticed that, like, in Dynasty Warriors 7, he was kind of making that plea, like, use me, da 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 da, you, and like and then like, fucking, the other, I can't remember his fucking name, it's like, Zhang Liang, I think. Yeah, Zhang Liang, I think is his name. He's all quiet and stuff, and Southside decides, okay, we're gonna kill Lu Bu because you're clearly afraid of dying. And then Zhang Liang is all like, kill me, I'm ready. Like, no, I want to use you because you're not afraid of death. Whereas in fucking Dynasty Warriors 8, what I remember is like Cao Cao asks them both a question about like strength. And here they kind of combine the two. Like it starts off like, you know, strength, da 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 da, like you didn't utilize strategy. Like, I like strength. What if I used my strength to aid you? So it's kind of like a mix of like the two, which I thought was kind of interesting. This time it's only with, I think, no, I take it back. I think Zhang Liang is actually there, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I don't remember we'll get to the name pronunciations in a minute because they actually mostly it's weird. But besides that first encounter with Lubu and then the fight with those two chicks from the different factions, Bao Shananana or whatever her name is, and then the other chick from Wu that I can't fucking remember her name. That was brutal. Those two girls were brutal. Lubu wasn't so bad, but I mostly opted to go to the main battle. The only one that was kind of tough just on the grounds of like I didn't prepare for it was probably Deng Zhuo. But again, like I just jumped right to it because I'm just like, if I knew like, okay, this is going to be the final fight with him, I just want to go ahead and jump into it because I wanted to, really play through the game. And I wasn't really looking to do too many side quests. I kind of wanted to get through the story and then maybe do like, side quests and whatnot afterwards. I know there's like that part where you can like go to the top of the mountain, like you can go up there and hang out. I don't know if there's a trophy or whatever. Like you reached the top of the highest point in the game, lols. But it was. I kind of liked the structure because I felt like it sort of put the different battles in perspective. Like if you wanted to know, like, especially if you're the kind of person to where you're playing a mission in like Dynasty Warriors 7 or 8, and you're thinking, is this really important to the overarching story and important to the overarching war? And they would put it in perspective a little bit. I think. And obviously, depending on who you play as, you get like certain missions. But I like the structure of it. I thought it was pretty good. There was one kind of glitch that happened that I noticed. It was during the mission where Cao Cao goes back, or Cao Cao's trying to break out of the place. And it's your first encounter with Jiao Shu. I'm thinking like, okay, this is like a giant fucking maze of a castle. I'm just gonna go over with my grappling hook and just go to like the main, like the entrance and like beat up Jiao Shu, and then leave. Every single time I would jump, I would get like a fucking like the game like. It's sort of like in regular Dynasty Warriors games to where there's an indicator of when you've lost. And the old ones, what would happen is that the HUD would go away, and that was your indicator that either the battle had been won or the battle had been lost. Here, they keep the HUD, but they lock your character to where all you can do is walk. You can't, like, run, or rather, you can't, like, attack or anything. And, like, it would be kind of slow, like, nothing like, wait, what's going on? And suddenly Dunway would be like, I'm sorry, master. I can't go on. And then Cao Cao would be all like, it looks like my time is up. Ugh. That was a terrible defeat sound effect, but I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Like, I'm literally just going to where the final boss of this mission is, like, or the boss of this mission. Like, why is this game being all like, me? You're trying to, cheat the system. Like, no, I'm not. I'm taking advantage of the system you gave me by going through these areas that don't have ceilings, by the way, because it's an outside castle. Jerk. But that was really the only, like, glitch I noticed. I don't think I remember any other glitches that were really a problem, I don't think. I might be misremembering, and as I said in the beginning, like, if you want to hear a more, right after I played it, review, listen to the podcast. It'll be a link in the description if you want to kind of hear, like, this is what I thought about, like, a week or whatever after I beat the game, as opposed to several months after beating the game. Now let's get into the hard negatives, which my first one is the battle system. I think it's changed for the worst. Instead of having like a weak attack and a strong attack like you normally have in Warriors games where like and you're supposed to combo them and you do cool things, it's one of those things where you have like just a basic ass attack and then you've got like extra attack types that you can do via a special menu that you do in R1. It's kind of like in Dragon Quest Heroes. I think 1 and 2 do this. Although, of course, both those games had the weak and strong attack thing, so it worked better if you ask me. But it's like that where you press that and you can do like special moves. Like Lucia's had like Searing Slash or Flame Slash rather, and then he had like Zap. and some other stuff you could probably get. It's kind of like that, except you have like a launching attack, you have like a parry attack, you've got like a elemental attack or whatever, and then you've got like the move that you would do and like sort of like your specialty combo that you could do. Like with Cao Cao, he would summon like needles. It's like a lesser version of their Hyogi in a way, or Hyogi, Muzo attack. They have that, which that's kind of cool, and there's a cooldown for that one. All the other ones don't. But what you're supposed to do is combo those to do all your little moves, and then you'll do cool combos. Like, it's probably going to take me some time to kind of get used to playing that game again in that way when I'm recording the footage. But I didn't like that system. I think it's cool to have that, but I really would have preferred it if they had the weak and strong attack thing, because it would have made it just would have been a lot more fun, I think. I just thought it was more fun in the old way. Like, this way, it doesn't flow well at all. Like, it's just not fun. I really think they should have. I think they should have just kept the battle system the way it was, and maybe like just try to like revamp it to make it work on this context. I don't know how specifically they would have done that. Hopefully in 10, if they keep this open world thing, they'll go back to that battle system. I know that for Warriors Orochi 4, they're going back for to the typical way, which that'll be good. That'll definitely be a good way to sort of play a new Dynasty Warriors game while it being fun. That was definitely that's probably the lowest point in my opinion. The other low point I would say is probably the voice acting. It's really mixed because and I remember, I don't know how many people talked about this, but basically everyone was recast. Brand new cast. I speculate that this game was, the English dub of this game was being recorded during the voice actor strike. I think that's the reason why. Because I noticed that they got a lot of TV people for these characters. I don't think too many people that you would probably know if you watched a lot of TV, and I mean watch a lot. Like, I'm not talking about watching your, like, a bunch of different shows and whatnot. And like, not your HBOs or your Netflix or whatever. I know Netflix isn't TV, but you know what I mean. Yes, it was kind of weird. It definitely very mixed. Lu Bu was just majorly miscast, or his acting was okay, but the voice they gave him wasn't really good. He doesn't really sound threatening or booming. They kind of gave him just sort of like a growly voice, which is okay, I guess. Cao Cao is kind of okay, but his delivery and tone is strange at like random points. Like he sounds kind of on point. It's definitely sort of a more cartoony voice. It's not zany in any way, but like it's all like, I'm going to take over the world. Like, I'm going to let's see if I can do a good impression. It's all like, I'm Cao Cao. I want to end the conflict of China and shit. But then, like, in certain parts, like when he does his like I've won quote that Sumayu's was always the mind is weaker than the sword, or the mind shall vanquish the sword. Like, he said that all the time. And of course Sima Zhao was good. Now I can finally go home. Where Cao Cao was, nothing will stop me from fulfilling my ambition. And I'm just like, bro, you need to chill. Take a lozenge, please. I might need a lozenge after doing all that. I'm also a little refluxy, so he was kind of okay-ish. Xiahou Dun, to me, is the worst defender out of all of them, mostly. It's funny, because, like, right after he, like, at first I'm just like, I'm not feeling that voice. And then, like, when he does the whole eye patch thing, his first line of dialogue after, or his first endgame dialogue after getting the eye patch, he sounds perfect. I'd be like, whoa, like, good job, man. And then, like, after that, it's just, like, it was okay afterwards. I think at that point, he kind of grew on me. Two of the worst characters, unfortunately. Well, first, I don't want, mainly, unfortunately, for the first one that I have on this little in my notes is Jun Yu, who was one of the. He was from I think Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, so he never got an English voice. He was pretty bad, and Guojia he was not good. Neither one of them were really good, and both of them have lines where like they're stumbling over the names, like just as an example, which I also wrote in my notes, and like it's not really based on anything in particular, but it was like, we must pursue Master Jahoba in order to win the battle. And I'm just like, can you do another take where maybe you read the name a little quicker? Like, I know these are weird names, but it's just like, you know, they have to have pronunciation guides. Like, just like, I would have been like, okay, now that you know how to say that, like, here's how you say it, let's try it again, and, you know, say it like you're actually saying the name in a way that is proper. The actual new characters like Cao Shu, like Cao Shu was actually pretty good as well. Like one of my favorites is one of his lines where he's like, "Advance! Do not slow down! Advance!" Like I really liked that line. I thought he did really good there. Sima Yi was also pretty good. Like he's, you know, he's like, yes, I'm really smart. Like, you know, he's very much a character. I was about to say he's very much a character. Obviously, he's a fucking character. But, like, you know, his voice is very much a caricature in a way. Interestingly enough, it was like after doing Cao Cao's story, which is where probably the worst the voice acting came in. It seemed like when I was doing Sima Yi's, the voice acting, like, improved. I had taken a little bit of a break between those two. So I don't know if, like, they did, like, a voiceover patch where, like, they tried to fix some of these lines. I'm not going to go back and check because I don't want to be wrong about this. Because I actually, after doing Sima Yi's, or when I got to Sima Yi's story, the voice acting sounded a lot better. Like, it wasn't perfect, but I'm like, you know, this is actually kind of passable. I was actually thinking about switching the voiceovers to Japanese. So I'm just like, you know what? You know, I'm not digging these voices. I'm just going to do that. But I actually played through the entire game, or played through Sima Yi and Sima Zhao's story, English dub. So, you know, pretty okay. I noticed a lot of the females have similar sounding voices. I don't think they're by the same actress, but I know a fair amount of them sound the same. I think her name's Dong Bai, if I'm not mistaken. Dong Zhuo's daughter. She sounds a little different from what I heard, because I watched a video of her, like one of her scenes. I don't remember exactly. But the Japanese cast, for those who care, are like, you know, what you would expect. They probably got everyone back, as far as I know. The game also has a Chinese voice cast, which is perfect for this game since it's Chinese history. I don't know who they got. I'm not too familiar with Chinese actors, and I don't know if they have ever done a Chinese dub of a Dynasty Warriors game before. Because then, if they did, I'm thinking like, well, they probably tried to pull in actors from, you know, those previous attempts. I don't know if they did or not. It could just be entirely new people. But that was really cool. I'd say probably the best of the new cast was Joshua. He was perfect. His delivery was good. His voice was good. He was the best character out of all of them. And I also like the narrator. The narrator was pretty cool. But yeah, Joshua, he did great. Like he was like the one I'm thinking, like, you know, and I was a little worried about him because he was originally voiced by Vic Mignogna in the dub. I'm thinking like, oh, that's really cool. You know, I like it when different pools of voice actors come in to dub a game. Like, you get your Funimation people, and then you get your Viz people, and then you get your New York people, and your Canadian people. Like, all these different pools of actors, like your anime voice actors, your video game voice actors, your cartoon voice actors, your voice actors who do a little bit of everything. Like, I know, you know, Chris Sabat was actually in Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8. He was Deng I think his name is. He was like the big beef guy from Gene. The new guy they got, he did pretty well, I think. Like I said, a lot of the post Cao Cao characters I noticed were actually really good. And again, Jiaoshu was probably the best. But yeah, the battle system and the voice acting are probably the lowest points. I'd say the battle system's the absolute worst because like it wasn't fun to play. It just straight up wasn't fun to play. It didn't flow well. I felt like I was having to kind of like overly trigger things. The music though was pretty good. I really liked the music. It's all new music as far as I can tell. Like only a few tracks are remixed. Like I think they did like a rearrange of Epic Man for like their castle theme, you know, like you know, they did that. And then Male Roar for Gene, which is, you know, the you know, that. They did kind of a rearrange of that. That was pretty cool. And they also did a really cool, like, for Sima Zhao's final mission, which I thought this was perfect. Like, this was perfect. They do an epic, it's called, I think, The Epic Shall Live On Forever. And it starts off like it sounds like it's going to be another arrangement of Epic Man. It's like, but it's like, like, it was badass. It was perfect. It's one of my favorite songs. I also really like the general battle music. I actually really like that. I thought it kind of got me pumped up. It kind of reminded me like, oh, this is fun. This is a Dynasty Warriors game. It's supposed to be fun. But yeah, music, you know, it's gonna be good. You know, your epic rock music. I really like the main mission, or like the taking of the castle. I think it's called Slash It and Thrash It, or Thrash It. It's Slash It, or it's either Slash It and Thrash It, or Slash It and Trash It. I think the general battle music is called The Awakening or something. I don't know. I have the soundtrack that I downloaded. The opening thing is also pretty cool too. It just shows Zhao Yun T-posing, getting his clothes on. Then he goes down from the sky and starts fucking up soldiers in what looks like an endless array of soldiers. Kind of inspired me for like maybe a cool like training room for a story that I might use in the future. But yeah, overall this was a very mixed game, I think. I'm not really on the camp that thinks it's terrible. I do think the battle system really needed a lot of work. And what I mean by work is that they didn't need to do any work because it was fine. Or at least like maybe touch it up or like fine tune it. The characters that did have duplicate weapons like Lu Xun and Liu Bei, like the twin sword people, I think they maybe should have done some work on that. Like I kind of liked it when Lu Xun had just like the one like single sword, like the Xianghua sword. I like that. I think they should have done something like that with him because, you know, they gave Zhou Yu the fucking staff, so it's like, you know, they don't really need to worry about having like, you know, carryover like that. And I liked Lu Bu's daughter having his old weapon from Dynasty Warriors 6. I thought that was cool. I think they should be taking advantage of what they have. Like, obviously, like, yeah, for 6, a lot of characters had, like, spears and whatnot. Like, I remember Sun Sa, they took away his Tonfas. Yeah, that's another one. Like, they took away his Tonfas, and they gave him Zhou Kong's weird, like, harp sword thing. Which, that's a major no-no, if you ask me, because, like, the Tonfas are his fucking weapons, if you ask me. Like, that's what you gotta do. You gotta let him have his Tonfas. But that's his thing, if you ask me. Or rather, that's what I'd like to see him have. I mean, again, I kind of got into Dynasty Warriors through 6, so, you know. But overall, I think, honestly, in terms of the weapons, I think everyone was mostly on point. I just think that there were a handful of characters that didn't really have good weapons. But, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah, overall, game was okay. I liked the structure of the story missions, and I do kind of like the open world thing. It kind of made it a little more exciting and fun to play. And graphically, I thought it looked pretty cool. I thought they looked really good when like you would go into the status menu. Like it looked like it was at like a fucking like super high res. It looked like super high res poly model to me. I'm like, holy crap, why does this look really good? And then like in the game, it looks a little more toned down. Music was good. Voice acting was pretty mixed. I think they really should have worked on that a little bit. I don't know. I almost kind of wish they had delayed the game and like re-recorded everything. Obviously, they're not going to do like a new voice patch or anything like that. I mean, I guess they could. After the whole East Lacrimosa of Donna fiasco, I guess anything's possible at this point. But yeah, overall, it was an okay game. If you like Dynasty Warriors, might as well give it a try and see if you like it. I saw they recently added an arena, which I think that's actually really good. The idea of like a survival mode in these kind of games is like perfect for me, where you just fight an onslaught of enemies. You occasionally get a boss and they get stronger over time. Like that'd be awesome, man. I would dig that. I would play that all day. Like if they did that for Spirit of Sonata, I would probably be playing that like almost regularly. But you know, it was an okay effort, and hopefully for Dynasty Warriors 10, whenever that comes out, they'll do a little bit better. They wanted to try something new. They were kind of leading towards that, I think, because Spirit of Sonata was trying to do the whole seamless like big world thing where you could like explore and whatnot. Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 were both pretty open. Dragon Quest Heroes 1 was more of the instance thing. Dragon Quest Heroes 2 has an actual like big world map that you can fight in. Honestly, like playing this game made me think like, Dragon Quest Heroes 2 kind of did this better. The only thing it probably didn't do as well was the seamless thing, but I mean it wasn't really trying to do that. It kind of looks a little bit better too, because not just because of the Akira Toriyama art, but I need to go back and finish that. That was actually a fun time. But yeah, I think they definitely should have taken some cues from Dragon Quest Heroes 2, at least for how they handled the combat. Because it's kind of funny, because like that's almost like the perfect example of what they were trying to do. On paper with their revamping of the battle system, yet they didn't get it right. I don't know, maybe they didn't want to copy themselves. Maybe they felt like that'd be either too easy or like that's sort of like a spin-off thing that's not really like true Dynasty Wars, which that's kind of fair, because Dragon Quest Heroes is kind of more like an RPG with a Dynasty Warriors-esque battle system. But okay effort. Hopefully the next one will be good. I really hope they get the old voice cast back. They can keep the new people, except for Shun Yu, or if you do get him back, maybe direct him a little. Because I will say, that is another thing, like, a lot of it I think is sort of, like, poor direction, maybe, in my opinion. Just because, like, I can tell all of them had good acting ability. Some of them probably weren't really used to voice acting. Some of them may have been, but you could tell that, like, they weren't really being directed well, or they didn't really understand what the context of the scene. I don't know, like it was just kind of mixed, and I certainly hope they fix the battle system. Again, look at fucking Dragon Quest Heroes 2. I'm even thinking about playing that right now, even though I probably need to record other things or do other things that I need to do. I'll probably, Soul Calibur 6 is coming out pretty soon, so that's going to take up a lot of time. But yeah, overall, I'm going to say this game was okay. Battle system, easily the worst part of it. The voice acting was mixed. Music was good. The story was good. Graphics were okay. I didn't really like the glitches, and I didn't really like the weird shrinkage of the picture on my TV. And the structure of how the story missions worked in conjunction with the open world, I liked. I kind of do wish they would have gone back to the factions, because in 8 they let you pick from like 3 characters, so it's not like you have to play as one character that you just don't want to play as. Like, you might have an alternative, be like, well, it's not my favorite character, but I can at least play as this guy. Which I played a little bit of Xiahou Dun's Podao style. Like, they definitely ruined that. Like, I'm probably not going to do his story mode. I might do Sun Quan's style story, but other than that, probably not going to do another story mode unless like I want to try. I think I need to do Ding Eyes to get Wen Yong's, and I also want to get the DLC characters because I do want to have everyone, because I don't think I've ever done that with a regular Dynasty Warriors game. Like for Warriors Orochi, I like to have everyone because like the number is like huge, like it's in the hundreds. I think even in Warriors Orochi 4 it's gonna be like 170 characters total, so that's a lot of fucking characters. But yeah, overall it was okay. If you like Dynasty Warriors and you want to give this game a try, go ahead. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I don't remember what I rated on the podcast. I kind of want to give it like a 7 or an 8 out of, like a 7.5 or like a 6, either a 6.5 or a 7.5 out of 10. I was almost about to say an 8, but like that's, I don't know if that's, or at least a 7.9 towards almost an 8. But you know, it is what it is. Alrighty, this is Flamzaronic Tasuke signing out. See you later.